automation. And thank you very much for remembering to record the session, Michelle. That was also my job. Thank you. So, as I said, welcome to our November Channel Marketing Academy group chat call on marketing automation. So let's introduce our panelists first. Tell us who you are, where you work, maybe how long you've been in our channel if you like, and also mention what kind of technology like you use for marketing automation or have used in the past, so we have a framework. Roland, let's start with you.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Roland Chi, and I work at Technology Management Concept. We're a Microsoft partner. I have been in the channel for almost 15 years now, and I use HubSpot as a marketing automation tool. I've used several marketing automation tools for my career, including MailChimp, Constant Contact, Marketo, and Campaign Commander that is now rebranded Smart Focus. And yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you. Hannah, how about you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Horning, and I am in a dual role here at ArcherPoint. So I focus on demand generation and marketing ops. And I've used, many marketing automation tools over the years, primarily HubSpot. Now we're using Pardot, and I've also used Marketo. So, some of the core solutions that are available. And I've been in the channel for 9 years.
Thank you. And Vincent?
Yes, hello, everyone. My name is Vincent Kelly. I'm the head of marketing here at Solgari. We are a all-channel communications contact center, unified comms ISV. We do most, if not all, of our marketing in Dynamics 365, although my personal experience goes across MailChimp, Hootsuite, Salesforce, Pardot. I've got about 12 years experience as a marketeer. I'm very new to the channel. I've only been, I'm brand new, in fact, I should say. So thank you for the invitation. Looking forward to the conversation.
We're very, very happy to have new marketers in our channel join our little group. So first question is, to what extent do you all use marketing automation in your organization? Do you just send emails? Do you do full-blown ABM, nurture campaigns? Tell us a little bit about your experience. Roland, we'll start with you.
Okay, so as I said earlier, I'm using HubSpot as the marketing automation software for the marketing at TMC. And I pretty much use it for everything. So from newsletters, email series, nurturing campaigns. We also use the chat system. So it's chatbot automated. We schedule our social media. So social media automation, centralize our different forums. Work with it also with some of the landing pages, specific ones. HubSpot has also a blogging feature in it that I used to utilize, but I've stopped. I've moved back to WordPress, and that's another discussion, obviously. Email library for our sales team and analytics. So pretty much everything. I've used also the CRM capabilities of HubSpot, but that can be another call by itself to just talk about HubSpot.
Excellent. Hannah, how about you?
Yeah, so right now we're using Pardot, and we actually use Pardot mainly as our, I would say, like our central database. So we use HubSpot for newsletters, our nurture campaigns, and all of our other things like social media, specifically ABM. We have separate platforms for those tools that specialize in that, but all of that data always is integrated into Pardot, and we use that as our system of record for holding all of our contacts and making sure all the data is flowing into our CRM, which is Salesforce. So that's mainly how we use it. We're using it mostly as our automations. So keeping our lists really clean, creating segmentations, tracking opt-ins, all of those things happen in Pardot. And mainly it's used for email marketing.
Great. And Vincent, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I mean, I'll just say that from our perspective, we use marketing automation pretty much throughout the business. we're a relatively small marketing team with global reach. We have sales activity across the planet. So we really use it to try and achieve scale, to kind of match that global reach, and also just to ensure that we can kind of rigorously capture and nurture all leads that come in, and provide that support to the sales team in terms of pushing people through the funnel. So, really making sure that no one falls through any cracks in the system. And yeah, as I mentioned, we use Dynamics 365 primarily for most of our marketing automation. So the automation and the CRM are kind of two sides of the one coin.
Okay, thank you. And the next question we came up with is, do you have your marketing automation tool built into your website for download? How does this help you? And Roland, we'll start with you for that one.
All right, seems like I'm starting the questions today. So honestly, this question we could have a full-on panel discussion just specific on that question. For me, this is the most important aspect for to see successes with your marketing automation. Like having your marketing automation software connected to your website is one of the must have. So it collects information and provides you with timely and accurate data. I use, as I said earlier, the forms and also call to action. We create banners, buttons, text link on the marketing automation, and then we integrate that onto the website. So all of this generates a lot of marketing data. So by connecting them, we automate obviously the entrance of the generation of leads, and then they enter into a marketing campaign, nurturing campaigns. We basically move them from the different status of lead that they can have throughout their journey. So from the leads, from marketing qualified leads, from sales qualified leads, and then all of this is automated. So no errors, no one's forgotten, and we have data on what's working, which banner is working better, if we place it here, if we change the button, etc. And as a bonus, HubSpot used the email extension of every lead created to gather contact throughout the internet. So we get company information, location, countries, revenues, etc., number of employees. So it really helps to have everything connected together, and not only the marketing but also the sales department that is aligned with and using this software as well. So most important aspect for me.
Thank you. And I will remind the audience too, please, this is supposed to be a group chat. So if you have any questions, you can type them in. You can also unmute yourself and ask. It's a small enough group. You can actually make it a chat. Hannah or Vincent, did you have anything you wanted to add to that question about being built into your website for download?
Hannah?
Yeah, so like I said, we use that as our Pardot is used as our central database. So everything we do has to be integrated into Pardot. So we get that data flowing there. Like Roland said, I mean, the amount of data is astronomical from all of these different tools. So we need a central place that we can analyze it. And then also we on our website, we don't specifically add a form to our website. We actually use Gravity Forms on WordPress because we like the way Gravity Forms works, but we send that data to Pardot through a form handler. Obviously, I won't go into the details because we're not talking about Pardot, but it gets a little technical, but that's the way we make sure all of our data from our website is tracked. And of course, we use tracking codes from our marketing automation to track, anonymous visitors and known visitors activity on WordPress.
Great.
I guess the only thing I would add from our perspective in terms of the forms with downloads, yeah, absolutely. I echo Roland's point. I think it's absolutely kind of table stakes, and you definitely need to be considering it. If you don't have it, you need to be considering it actively. One of the things that I really like about it is that you're able, it's data, of course it is, but you're able to do some kind of thinking and some informed work around intent. So, not every download is the same. Not every piece of content or collateral is as interesting. A at a very basic level, like a data sheet is not the same as an ebook, right? Or a white paper, or so on and so forth. So being able to kind of, from a lead source perspective, being able to have your the downloads being treated in the right way, being treated with the right relevance or gravitas. You know, we know if somebody has downloaded a particular white paper and from a particular region, you know, we know in our sales follow-up strategy, we want to absolutely get that in front of our salespeople immediately. We want to follow up within 2 hours. Whereas with, you know, piece of collateral X over here, actually, we're quite happy for that to go into our regular automated funnel and just be treated as a lead and nurtured in the way in which we've defined in our marketing automation engine. So I think that can be really helpful. Again, probably be my points throughout this session. We're a small team, so trying to use marketing automation to support ourselves and to make things as easy for us as possible, while also delivering the best service to our colleagues in the sales team. It's manna from heaven from that perspective.
Yeah, and to add on this, Vincent, you know, having all of this like automated is only like the last part of it. Like we need to do so much work before that to have everything tracked, you know, everything in place for when there is one download, all of this machine, you know, works like smoothly, and then, you know, everyone's aware of what's happening. And yeah, to, you know, bounce back to what you were saying about the tracking, like this is really what it comes, you know, down to when we have a marketing automation platform. It's really to be able to say, okay, they visited this page 3 days ago, and then they came back and then they downloaded it. So they, you know, they thought about it, and we changed maybe a button, or we changed something. And all of this is like accumulative data that we use after to improve the way that you know, the marketing automation is set up. So, you know, it's very, very powerful if you take the time to analyze what you get. So, you know, I know a lot of marketers out there just set it up once and then just, you know, let it just leave like that. And that's usually one of the, you know, way to not be successful with marketing automation. So definitely very important to understand what's happening before even like the download of an ebook, you know, even before creating an ebook, honestly.
That's great. And that's a great segue about when do you pass the leads over, right? So let's talk about a little bit about lead scoring. Do you have scoring set up within the tool? How is it set up? When and how do you pass that lead on? Hannah, maybe we can start with you on that one.
Yeah, so lead scoring is probably one of my favorite topics. It's something that I like to look at because I think, one, you know, you do need a way to determine which contacts should be treated in a different way than others. It's a great trigger for your automations. And it's also a great way to segment your database to, if you have BDRs or SDRs, they might be called, or what maybe should go directly to a consultative sales rep. So the one thing that I say about lead scoring is most tools have something out of the box. If they're going to offer lead scoring, your tool probably has some sort of lead scoring set out of the box. Now, I think you should definitely go in and manipulate that, but you don't necessarily need to do that right away when you implement. So if this is something you're new to, or you haven't tweaked those lead scoring rules, then see what data you've collected over time and then tweak them down the road. Whereas I don't think you need to build your own model if you're not familiar with building a lead scoring model. But one of the things that you want to make sure you do absolutely have is decay scoring. So decay scoring is when you change their lead score based on inactivity. So somebody who downloaded 3 assets 20 minutes ago shouldn't be treated the same as someone who downloaded 1 asset 90 days ago and hasn't had any activity since. So over the course of time, you want to start reducing their score. So let's say, so lead scoring traditionally just adds up. So you'll get, you know, an ebook 50 points, this 100 points, this 3 points, whatever, and it adds up. And now you have these scores that are in the thousands because they never decay. So you could send a list to your sales team or your BDRs and say, these are all our hot leads, you know, get on them, call them. And they're like, these people aren't interested at all. What's happening? Well, you need to look to make sure you have decay, because that activity could have happened 6 months ago, but you didn't reduce that score down. So that's one of my biggest tips. I think you're going to see more success if you implement a decay scoring model.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Very nice. Roland, do you have anything to add about lead scoring? You touched on it a little bit.
I mean, yeah, of course, this is a very important aspect of having a marketing automation tool. I'm gonna be honest here. This is one of the, feature of the marketing automation tool that I'm the, least experienced with. We use it internally, so we use it at TMC, and we have what I would say a basic structure for it. For example, I don't have a negative point, just like Anna just mentioned, and I think this is a great advice. One advice that I would give for using lead scoring is to work with your sales team. Try to align what makes a good lead, because it's not like a question of point. You're right, Anna. It's not like 1,000 point, bunch of action and accumulate the point and then send that to a salesperson. So in my case here, we have a very basic one based on action only. And the problem is that we need to do a lot of manual mining, basically a lot of manual research. When someone reaches a certain point, I receive an alert and I need to go into the system and actually check what Anna just mentioned. Did they download something 3 months ago and then just today they visited a pricing page? So somehow they just been added this point and now reached the point that, the score that we want or we consider being a hot lead. So all this manual work can be removed by, having, minus point, I think.
Okay, great. And Vincent, you had mentioned you prioritize active engagement over passive engagement. Is there anything else you want to add, or should we move to the next question?
I guess, yeah, the only thing I would add, and this is not a contrary view, but maybe something else to bear in mind. Your lead scoring, in my opinion, you have to be realistic and pragmatic and honest about what you're actually doing from a marketing perspective, right? There's no point. I completely I agree with Roland. We have probably what you consider a somewhat basic lead scoring model, right? And we also, as you mentioned, Anya, we prioritize active interactions. So click-throughs on emails, event registrations. We don't really care so much about email opens. So it's great, but it doesn't really mean much. But there's no point me scoring event registrations at like 50 points if we're not doing any events. I know that's obvious, right? But your marketing strategy and your lead scoring they have to be joined up. If you're not doing much email marketing, you're not sending newsletters, why wait clicks? Because it's only going to be a stick to be beaten with 6 months down the path when you're doing your reporting and you're saying, how come none of our leads are hitting their scoring models? And it's, well, what does their activity actually look like? So it's something that people overlook, right? We say, all right, let's go off and do a great lead scoring model. Be pragmatic and be clear-eyed about what you're actually looking to achieve, and mirror your lead scoring model to reflect that. And the point that Roland made earlier, which I think is so crucial, is then you can use that as a feedback loop into what you're doing and what you're planning for in the future.
Awesome, thank you.
Anya, it looks like someone had a question, and if I can clarify. So the question was, does your tool factor decay into lead score, or is that something that I manage manually? No, the tool does that. So this is something, it's a workaround. So most tools don't do this unless you have a really sophisticated marketing automation. Even Pardot, HubSpot doesn't do this either. I've done this in both tools. So how I make this work is I actually set an automation up, or a workflow is what it's called in HubSpot, an automation that says, after 30 days, I want to reduce the score by X points of inactivity. So set some sort of time-based trigger in your automation to reduce your score. And then after, and that depends on your sales cycle. So 30 days is an example. In ERP, we can have really long sales cycles, like 18 months. So you may want to keep them in, you may want to keep their score higher for a longer period of time if you don't have a short transactional sales cycle. But after a certain number of days or weeks, months, years, whatever, we actually reset that score to 0. So we say, if you've had 0 inactivity in 90 days, I actually have the lead score emptied back to 0 and I start over. So that's another way to clear your score out. Because like I said, you're going to send leads to sales and they're going to say, these aren't hot. I don't know what you're talking about. They have zero interest in talking to me. But they may have had interest 6 months ago. So that's how that's done. And if you have a specific question about your tool, I can probably help you offline.
That's a great comment, Anna. That makes me think that I'm not doing things too bad, just because I've created a workflow actually to set up status to inactive leads. So I'm guessing it goes a little bit with, decreasing the score on the lead scoring side of the automation. And but I do have a workflow that decides when leads or contacts are becoming inactive, and then they enter into another type of campaign of reactivation, etc. But that's another
Yes.
Another topic. But this is great advice. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's a really similar tactic, essentially.
Daniel asked, how often do you run your marketing list through email validation systems, and do you use automation for this process? Any of you like to?
Email validation?
Yeah, probably. I'm guessing like clean your list kind of thing, or Daniel.
They should be clean like as we speak. Like it's not something that you do like every quarter or every 6 months. You need to have like automation and a process to do that, by itself, and then you just need to have a look like maybe once a week or something like that. But it has to be automated. Like you can't, realistically, you cannot just go back every 3 months and decide, okay, now I'm going to spend 2 hours cleaning my database. It's just time consuming, and it makes, basically, for 3 months you're wrong, and then you're right for 2 hours, and then for 3 months again you're wrong. So it has to be an ongoing thing.
Great.
Yeah, and some systems have email validation. So like I can't remember if HubSpot does, Roland, but Pardot has email validation built in. So it won't allow me, and there's settings on my forms that if it's not a valid email, I'm not even going to let it come into my database. So that's something that you may have to look into specifically, how your tool handles email validation. And then of course, if your tool doesn't have it built on, you can buy add-ons for email validation to stop it from coming into your tool. Because that's, I think, the one thing, like Roland said, you have to do it all the time. So the one thing, try not to get dirty context into your database. Don't dump data that you can't validate into your system.
I mean, yeah, for sure. That's the first thing. You're right. Like, don't accept just any email addresses because they want to download an ebook or something, and yes, to answer your question, HubSpot has a, email validation on the, entrance way, but also, after a certain time, not getting a response from the, email provider, consider it being a wrong email after a while.
So it's very nice because on this degradation decay type of topic, Tracy let us know that ClickDimensions does have a lead degradation feature. You can set the negative value of the score based on different no scoring activity days. So that's very good to know. And this is a perfect time to segue to say thank you to our sponsor, which is ClickDimensions. It's a platform for small and mid-sized businesses that unifies all your sales and marketing efforts, gives you more control over every lead, and it helps take back control of your leads by giving you a way to reach every target, see every interaction, and connect everything together, all from a single platform. So we definitely appreciate that. ClickDimensions is our sponsor of the call this month, and a very timely topic to be talking about. And I think if anyone wants to DM Tracy Winter up there from ClickDimensions, you certainly can. Good. All right, so let's move on to our next question. We're about halfway through, so I think I'm going to actually combine these two questions here, throw you for a loop. But how has email marketing changed, and also how do you adapt things to a B2B audience? So we'll kind of combine them together. And maybe we'll start with you, Vincent, on how email marketing has changed.
I mean, I guess time frame is a question, right? I mean, email marketing 15 years ago.
Last week. How did it change last week?
How has it changed last week? What am I doing different today than what I did this morning, right? Or yesterday? So there's some obvious stuff. I think look and feel. When not too long ago, we were tasking our design team or design outsource resource to, you know, come up with all this great kind of whiz bang bannery. I think you know, audiences are much more sophisticated now. We can all sniff out a promotional email or any, if it's not authentic, you can see it immediately, and it's much more likely to hit the either your junk, or you might have automation rules. You know, the customer has automation rules set up to kind of get rid of your email. So I think that authenticity piece, and that leads me on to tone of voice. You know, we work, I'm not terrific at answering the second part of this question because we only work B2B, and I've always been a B2B marketeer. So I haven't done much adapting for a B2B audience. I will say that the tone of voice, you know, when I started my career, B2B communications was formal. You know, here's an offering for you that in your business, and here are the following KPIs that we think we can impact. I think we're all probably aware of the fact that, you know, business is very personal these days. You're not just asking your customers to buy a product. You're asking them to stand up in their next Exco meeting and say, I need X amount of budget for this, and follow me on this, trust me on this. People can sometimes stake their careers, you know, depending obviously on the price point of your solution. People can be staking their careers on the purchase that you're asking them to make. So, you know, respect that. I think from a messaging perspective, that's definitely one thing that's changed massively. I'm going to mention GDPR. I'm not going to drill into it too much. I think, you know, but that's a big change, right? How we, you know, the things we have to do. I can see Roland and Hannah nodding along. The things we have to do as marketeers to comply, and you know, GDPR is European. It's global, right? The trend is moving in that direction. Non-GDPR, GDPR, but then I keep on talking about two sides of one coin for some reason this afternoon. The flip side of that is that there is a demand within the business. Once you've understood and you're sure that you're treating your customer, your audience's data in a compliant and a secure and a trustworthy way, how do we take all of the data from the email interactions and make sure that we're piping it back into a clear and an accurate, a complete and a holistic view of the lead relationship, right? So because the email marketing data should be one piece of a picture that also complements, you know, Roland, you mentioned chat through your digital channels. You know, how do we complement the fact that the lead or the customer has or the prospect has also submitted a chat request and or completed a couple of inquiries through online chat and or social or so on and so forth. So kind of bringing in that all channel, omni-channel perspective, I think is key. But yeah, I mean, we've said it a few times already. It's a topic that could probably be its own webinar. But that's certainly where I see a lot of the changes over the last couple of years.
What you, Roland? What changes do you think impact you?
I think the rule of thumb here is to assume it's changing all the time. You know, you got to stay up to date, and you know, you got to look at the trends, and you know, why not try also your own thing? You know, it just adapts as, you know, as the audience change. You know, it's not just you, it's also the audience. You're also part of the audience. You receive promotional things, you receive emails from other B2B companies to try to sell to your own company or your own person, and you know, you see how this works. So you got to adapt. And this, I think, looking at yourself, how you react to an email. And I know sometimes it's biased because we're marketers, so we do that all the time, and we kind of have an eye to kind of see when something is kind of like too pushy or too spammy, etc. And we're the hardest like audience for that, honestly. So what you're gonna criticize on others, like, don't do it first, you know, and try to be just true to what you would think is okay, you know. And you were saying like email marketing, Vincent was saying like the tone of voice is something that's changed, you know, like this is something that is huge in the past not even talking about the technical stuff from the past 15 years. The tone of voice is something that really changed. Like, people used to assume B2B is emotionless. This is a company, I buy for a company, I don't put emotion in it. The reality is that it's a person who will be afraid to make a mistake if they buy the wrong product from you, or didn't get the best deal, etc. So there is a ton of emotion that goes into that, because people are not disconnected from their work. It's, we're all real people and we all have emotions, and whatever we do, even in our work, we put emotion in it. So, this thing from the past that says, when you market to a company, don't try to use emotion, just use KPI. It's, I think this is something from the past. You mentioned, GDPR. There is now CCPA in California, mobile friendly. The classic, don't use spammy word, like if you use discount, you might just not be even in the inbox, or you need an online version for them to look, online, instead of, not having the image display, all these little things. But mainly what I've seen that has changed in the email marketing is, and that's something I try to be better at, is segmentation, targeting. Like, we used to even use the term email blast. No one used email blast anymore. Like, if in my team someone used email blast, I'm not going to be happy. We work with campaigns, we work with, targeted audience. It's way more campaigns. I've never sent that many campaigns, even though we send to way less people. So it's smaller, smaller targeted messaging. And on the B2B part, something that, and that I think this will be my tip for this question, is think about their marketing. So today, it's not about the product you're using, it's the company you're using for that solution. If you can brag about, I'm using this company, they are woman-owned, they are, the first one in this industry, etc., you are actually, as a client, using this purchase in your own marketing. So make them feel that by using you, they have a marketing advantage. They look better for their own clients. Oh, I use a smaller local partner. It's just like when you say to your friends, let's go in this restaurant, they have organic food, they source their product locally, etc. This is a brag that you're doing because you care about that. And it's the same for a B2B audience. They want to be able to justify their choice with emotional aspects.
Interesting. Thank you. There's a very interesting podcast in our channel called Humans of Email. I don't know if any of you listen to that, but it's by Natalie Jackson, that used to work with Influence in our channel. And she just spends an entire hour just talking about what words to use, what emotions to capture, it goes so deep into what makes an email deliverable and read. So if anyone's interested in that, Humans of Email.
Oh, go listen to Natalie. She's yes, great.
She's great. Hannah, do you have anything to add to this one?
I'll just keep it really brief. Everything they said is spot on. So the one thing I would say is the biggest change I see is the compliance, right? Consent. If you don't have a consent strategy and you aren't following these laws and regulations, then it's time to make the shift and go for it. It's not as scary as it sounds. That I've taken 2 organizations through this process, and it can be done without completely killing your database. So that's my quick tip on that. Obviously, we don't have time to get into the details of how to execute a strategy like that, but it can be done, and it can be done well. And it's actually going to help your marketing campaigns down the road because your contacts are going to be more qualified. So.
Great. So let's talk about some recent wins. What have you learned? Vincent, maybe we'll start with you.
I mentioned at the beginning of the call that we have kind of centralized all of our marketing automation, and indeed most of our marketing and CRM into Dynamics. I consider that to be a win, believe it or not. And the reason is that where we came from, where I I guess where I kind of inherited the situation that I inherited when I kind of moved into this role. Point-to-point kind of specialized solutions, using MailChimp for your email, Hootsuite for your social, etc., and just doing that one solution per channel is great, and it makes a lot of sense when you're kind of starting things off. Where we got to though is that it was actually just creating more complexity, and it was actually resulting in a fragmented view of the lead relationship. Which, in a worst case scenario, in a non-ideal scenario, it means, okay, well, we don't have a full view of who this person is and their relationship with our business. But we talked just now about the different kind of compliance overheads that marketeers are facing, and maybe just as an aside, as a part of the business, as a function within the organization, maybe marketeers aren't super used to being a compliance risk or entertaining compliance or threat vectors, non-compliance vectors. But if we have a fragmented view of the lead relationship and a fragmented view of how we're communicating with them, for example, if they unsubscribe from our emails, or if they ask us not to do something, but we ended up doing anyway on a different channel, it can actually open us up to significant risk. And as a marketing team, we weren't exposing the business to that type of risk yet, but we were well on our way. So bringing things back and trying to achieve clarity, simplicity, bringing things back into a single platform. It's not for everyone. I'm not suggesting that everything has to be done just through one solution. Of course, there are situations where Salesforce plus Pardot or HubSpot, so on, where you can kind of have nuanced, intelligent additions and extensions into your technology stack. For us, though, I definitely consider that to be a real win, and we're actively harnessing the upside of Roland. Funny, Roland, you were talking about 3 months of data cleanup. I'm not going to tell you how long we spent on data cleanup, but we are actively harnessing the benefit of that now because we made that decision. And from a marketing automation perspective, we're now doing things that we would have never thought we were able to do 18 months ago. It would have literally been kind of pie in the sky thinking, but now it's within our reach, and we can start applying best practices. And it's been great, actually, just as an aside, as a marketing leader, it's been great to see the team kind of come alive and see like, oh, wow, this is what we can do now because our data is clean. Our emails our email addresses are validated. It's all kind of, it's ready. It's just ready to rock. So yeah, that's been a real win, and one that I'm super excited about for our future going forward.
I like that. Look what we can do with clean data. That's great. Roland, what would you like to talk about? What wins?
I mean, first, I would like to comment on what Vincent said. I think this is for sure one of the biggest win you can have in the marketing is having your systems together. And I guess the tip on that would be choose wisely your system automation depending on the system you already have, because not all of them connects with everything. And then, if you just realize that down the road that you cannot connect your system, or that it's going to be very expensive to create this API or bridge to connect things and that are not updated, or if it's an in-house development, it needs to have a team now to make it work longer and update, etc., and fix bugs. All of this can cost a lot of time and money. So I would say, choose wisely your marketing automation. I think ClickDimension has a lot of integration, I know, with Dynamics 365 CRM and others. And, to talk about HubSpot that I'm using, they don't have the smoothest or strongest integration with our CRM. And, I wish I'll make a plan to integrate these two, or to change platform. Sometimes it's just worth changing platform for a better one. And I know it's a lot of work, but as we said, like as Vincent said, all the team is going to be so happy and ready to like go to a next stage with all of this together. But talking about wins with marketing automation, for me, it's really like creating journey where I don't need to be involved. And from the time that a lead is entered, and from where it enters, etc., we talked about all the data collected, like using all this insight to create like a very personalized journey that's going to send exactly the resources at the right time for them. And in the ERP world, like the sales process can be like, as 18 months or 10, a year, let's say, and seeing that a lead can go through all this stage slowly at their pace, using our resources and not being disconnected from us without me even knowing it, that what's happening in the background. And then one day a salesperson just say, hey, thanks for that lead. I received it in my email this morning and I think they're ready. These for me are the big wins. And I wish every day a salesperson would tell me that, but this is the goal. But for sure, like that's for me the biggest win, is to be able to just have a journey already planned up, without me having to touch any button for that specific contact.
Excellent. So we had a question from Daniel, and it kind of goes along a little bit with our next question. So maybe we'll combine this and then also add to it. So Daniel asked, what would be the first piece of advice you would recommend to new marketers? What would be the first avenue to focus on? Maybe pulling from Vincent's experience, what do you do if you've kind of either inherited nothing or inherited a mess? That could be a question. Do any of you have something maybe brief to answer, Daniel?
New marketers in a company, or new marketers like just young marketer?
That's a good question. I don't know what Daniel meant, but he can tell us, or you can answer either one.
It's very tricky. I kind of have a hard time giving like very broad advice like that. I think the question is it's still like a little broad for me to point out.
What would you do if you inherited a big mess? Let's say that, like, there's no systems in place, there's nothing, there is no marketing automation yet. Daniel agrees, a big mess.
Okay, well, if there is nothing, it's way easier than if there is a big mess first.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. So if there is nothing, just make your plan and then, like prospect different marketing automation. But yes, start with the marketing automation. This is going to be where you live. Everything's going to be, you're going to connect every day to that. And this is how you're going to, do all your projects, etc. Like this is where you want to start. Basically, if you don't have anything, just choose or even no budget. You can start with, like free MailChimp, but just start with a database of contact that you learn how to clean and qualify. And, and just, this is the starting point, and then you're going to connect more feature and then grow your base, etc. If you have a big mess, I would say kind of try to deconstruct how things should be connected and clean. Just choose one and then focus on that one and just tackle each one of them, because like the big picture is just too hard. Especially, I'm assuming if there is a big mess, it's probably the team is not super structured, or you don't even have a big team, or it was the sales director who was kind of starting to use the marketing automation system by himself, and now it's like, okay, we have a budget for a marketer, let's have them on board to clean the mess, type of thing. So it really depends where you are. But yeah, big mess, I would say just make a plan of how you would see it in an ideal world for you, and just tackle slowly each one of them. I don't know what you guys think, Anna and Vincent. Sorry, I just jumped on that one.
Maybe we can move on to our last question, just so that we don't run out of time. We have a little more than 10 minutes. But it goes along with this. So really, what are your best practices that you live by in CHIPS? And that'll, I think, help answer this question as well. Hannah, what are some of your best practices in CHIPS?
Yeah, so I think I've mentioned some of them throughout the call, but definitely number one, email compliance. Like I said, if you're not doing it, you need to be doing it now. So we're getting in, even the United States is taking a stricter approach to this, as we see California always ends up pushing things to other states. each individual states are doing their own thing. So just go with a stricter guideline like GDPR, become compliant, and then feel good about your practices. So that's my number one tip. My other tip is, so historically marketers haven't been great at analytics and haven't been able to prove their value in an organization. So especially if you're in a smaller organization or in a company that doesn't feel like marketing should get more budget, or if you know, one headcount's enough and you need more, start thinking about how you're going to prove that marketing is worth the dollars and get that budget increased year after year. So the one way I just tackled this for Archer Point when I came on board last year, and we finally have a full year of data that we can go back this year during this round of budgeting and say, hey, we've generated more than we've spent, and here's exactly to the dollar what we've produced. So build a model that is going to allow you to track the marketing generated revenue. So obviously marketing can't control the sales cycle, so you still need to have goals around your normal, right? Like what types of conversion rates are appropriate for your industry? What type of, how many MQLs would you want as a marketing team to hit? Those types of things are good for marketing to focus on because we can't control the sale. But still, as a marketer, I think you should, as a marketing team, you should hold a goal to say, we want to contribute X amount to the business. So my goal for Archer Point is 25% of revenue that Archer Point produces originally was sourced from marketing. So meaning marketing found that person and passed it to sales for sales to close. Obviously, I can't be the one closing, but I can pass something that's high quality to them. So set a goal for yourself and as a team and what's appropriate. Maybe 25% is too high, especially if you've never done that. I would probably do something closer to like 10%. 25 is really aggressive. But use those types of things and make sure you're tracking your lead all the way through the sale so you know exactly how many dollars marketing contributed to the business.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Vincent, how about you? What are your best practices and tips?
Yeah, it's funny. I like a lot of what I'm about to say kind of applies to both scenarios, both, the big mess that kind of start from nothing or just kind of best practice going forward. And I guess it might be a contrary perspective, particularly on a marketing automation call. I think so many of the tools that we use nowadays are so good. You're building kind of drag and drop, no code, low code customer journeys and experiences very, very quickly. So I actually wouldn't focus on marketing, and I tend not to focus on marketing automation first. To me, that's execution and delivery. For me, I start, and some of my best practices involve personas and understanding who you're talking to and who you're marketing to. We talked earlier about the biggest change in marketing being that it's so much more personal. So for me, we have to start and we have to be thinking about who we're talking to, and we have to have accurate personas about who those people are. That will enable you to do a couple of things. Like firstly, it'll enable you to create the content. It'll enable you to create the material to talk to and to activate and to capture attention in a way that is relevant and in a way that is I talked earlier about intent. It also enables you to, marketing, the world is a big place, and enables you to, in a deliberate way, understand who you're not speaking to. And I completely agree. We've mentioned this a few times before, but marketing and sales, that old chestnut and the kind of stereotype of like butting heads. I have, in every business I've worked at, I have gone above and beyond and out of my way to forge relationships and allies within the sales organization. And it is crucial because they're the people in the, to Hannah's point, we can only get the lead so far along the way, and then it can't vanish into this black box labeled sales. We have to have that insight. We have to understand the effectiveness. I completely agree about the metrics piece. We need to understand the conversion rates for the rest of the business. How many of our leads are you closing, so that we can refine our processes. Though, just to contradict myself, don't try to be too personal. That's sales jobs. We're in marketing. We're trying to get people in the top of the funnel. We don't need to know, what Jerry had for breakfast. We need to know, what does a vice president of sales in that kind of an organization care about, or whatever the persona is. So let sales do the consultative selling, but live and breathe your personas. And ultimately, perfect is the enemy of good. We can spend all day long agonizing over tinkering and refining over getting things just right. Get it out. Again, be ruthless and brutal with yourself. The only way you'll improve it is by living in the data. So Hannah's absolutely right. There are no excuses for marketeers to not be analytics, at least conversive, if such a word exists. You need to be able to at least be conversational with analytics. You don't need to be a data expert or a data scientist, but there's no excuse these days for not having a view on the data and using it to inform what you're doing and what you're planning on doing next.
Great, thank you. And I like something you said earlier, Vincent, to be ruthless in disqualifying and prevent rubbish leads from being in your CRM.
100%.
And to your point about buyer personas, I know Marie Weiss is on our call for Marketing Copilot right now. She's actually developing a course for marketers in our channel to help them to really fine tune their buyer persona. So that might be something to check out as well, Marketing Copilot. So Roland, we have about 5 minutes left. If you want to wrap us up and let us know what are your best practices and tips?
I mean, Anna and Vincent really said super interesting things. I mean, like the sales alignment, obviously, and, the strategy, even before building all your automation, understanding the big picture, the personas, which industry or which industry is different, how different roles are, want to be addressed differently, have different needs, etc. And yeah, the most important things is not trying to be perfect, do, test, do again, etc. Like a strategy that, works today, it might not work tomorrow. It's all about like, testing again and accepting change. Like I mentioned that before, but I see a lot of marketers just setting up their marketing automation forever and they never touched it. Even 10 years later, it's like outdated things being like shared and promoted, and even like the sales team coming back at them saying, oh, we don't offer this anymore, what are you doing? Like things like that. So really like be ready to always like criticize your past work. This is something that marketers are not very good at, and maybe because they don't want to look at the data, but that's true. Analytics is the future of a lot of marketing roles. And yeah, I mean, my advice is really like, just don't market only to the people who wants to be marketed to. Don't use empty words. This is something I see a lot with marketers, like, oh, streamline this, like, what does that even mean? Like digital transformation, like all these big terms that sound cool, sound trendy, but in reality, when someone who have a real need read that, they don't relate. They don't see that you understand their problem. So talk to real people with real needs, just also be honest. There's no point to bring a lead to a salesperson that doesn't understand perfectly what you're offering. So, be honest, be accurate. If someone doesn't want to be marketed to, this comes to consent, just remove them. That's fine. It's not about the size of your database. It's how clean it is. So clean your database. I guess that's also my advice to you guys. Keep your stuff clean, and it will go a long way.
Excellent. And Mike had a nice tip about document each change you make to your automations and the reason you made those changes. Your future self and your new hires will thank you. And I know Mike definitely agrees with all of your analytics advice, since that he was a panelist on our analytics call. It was very good. Great. So thank you all very much for sharing your insights. If anyone has any last minute questions, you can put them into the chat. I will say that we will take a break in December. Won't have a CMA group chat. We'll start again in January. We have some topic ideas and some panelist ideas for the first semester of next year, but we would love to have more ideas, more panelists. If you haven't been a panelist yet, and you would like to take this opportunity, it's a great way to, for some people, move out of your comfort zone, expand your personal brand, and really just connect and share with the rest of our community. And encourage you to go out to the Channel Marketing Academy site. If you missed calls or you have new hires that you want to be able to watch these at some point, we have a Channel Marketing Academy library where we have the recorded calls that you can get as a CMA member. So thank you everyone for joining us. Really appreciate your questions. And for our panelists, may I just ask you, could I get a smile from all you guys? I'm going to take a quick screenshot.